Hello and welcome to the Blessings in the Streets podcast. I am your host, Joseph B. Roberts, and in studio with me today is a phenomenal woman that I had the pleasure of connecting with online probably a little bit more than 6, 7 months ago, actually. She reached out to me, had an opportunity to learn a little bit about my podcast and what I was doing here, and she shared a little bit of snippet of her story with me and expressed interest in wanting to share with others on the show. And so, of course, after, getting a chance to check out a little bit about her, I was immediately intrigued and knew right away that, yes, we needed to make this thing happen. So I reached back out to her. We were able to communicate and she agreed to be a guest on the show, which I'm super excited about. Anxious to learn more about her story, her journey. She is a writer. She's a speaker. She's a photographer. She's an educator. But most importantly, she's a woman of great resilience and a living example of what it means to face adversity head on and not allow it to overtake her or not allow it to defeat her, but instead use it as an opportunity to grow and be the best version of herself. And I'm, again, super excited for her to be here as she has taken time out of her very busy schedule to inspire, to encourage, to uplift us in the sharing of her story. So it is my pleasure, ladies and gentlemen, to introduce to you tonight my special guest, Miss Michelle Steiner. Michelle, thank you so much for being with us today.
Oh, thank you so much for having me. It's been it's a pleasure being here today.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, Michelle, before we jump into our segments for this evening, I do want to give you an opportunity to share a little something about yourself, who you are, where you're from, what you do. Kind of give our audience a taste of who is Michelle Steiner.
Sure, I'd be happy to. Well, my name is Michelle Steiner. I live in Pennsylvania with my husband Ron and our two cats, Jack and Sparrow. I am a writer, I'm a speaker, and I'm a photographer, and I'm also a paraeducator.
Awesome. Awesome. And I noticed when I was looking at your initial info information about yourself, we actually share the same birthday.
Oh, really? May 20th.
Yes, yes. I was like,
That's
oh, that's awesome. So
amazing.
this is supposed to happen. So I got a birthday twin with me today. So
That's
that is
right.
awesome. Yes, yes. So
Yes. Well,
super
happy
excited
belated
about that.
birthday.
Right, right. Same to you. Same to you. That is awesome. All right. Well, let's go ahead and get into our segments for this evening because we need to learn a little bit more about your story. And so I'm a firm believer that when it comes to discussing our journeys, our stories, we would be remiss if we didn't take the opportunity to take it back to the beginning from where it all
Yes.
starts. Because I believe that foundational basis of the story kind of sets the stage for not only what happened back then, but what exactly the things that you're doing today and kind of connecting the dots, if you will. So if you
Okay.
will, let's take a time to go back to your childhood, if you will, and as you reflect on that, if you would kind of share with us, what was it like for you growing up? Fond memories that you have about growing up, as well as there's any particular challenges that you'd like to share about growing up. Just kind of, again, give us that foundational basis of where your story begins.
Sure. Well, my story definitely begins during my childhood. I was diagnosed with having a learning disability whenever I was in kindergarten. So, very early on, my teacher could see that I was really struggling in the classroom with math. I was also struggling with, I couldn't tie my shoes, counting, and visual perception were some challenges for me. And I also really was struggling socially. I was an only child for 13 years. And that was a blessing too, because I hung out with a lot of adults, but it was hard to relate to other kids. But I had a lot of fond memories of my parents where I had to be creative. We grew up in the country and there wasn't a lot of kids to play with. I mean, we had some neighborhood kids, but they weren't always the most positive interactions. And I didn't have a sibling for my brother didn't come along till I was 13. So if I wanted to play, I had to be play by myself. And that caused me to be creative. And we did not have cable for many years. So I learned to love to read and write and play with my dolls. One of my favorite things I can just remember growing up is we lived near my grandparents in their house for a number of years when my parents were building it. And whenever we moved into our new home, I can remember that I had a play toaster, but I didn't have a play food. So this shows creativity. I took cardboard and made toast out of cardboard, and that was my toast. So I really learned a lot about resilience and, just being happy and content with playing by myself. In fact, my kindergarten teacher even said that I often played by myself, and it wasn't that I was lonely. It was just I really uh, that's what I did because I was so used to that. And what that has done in my adult life is that has caused me to be independent and resilient. And I still love being around people, but I still have that little girl that's making out cardboard toast for her toaster. And growing up, it was really difficult with having a learning disability. My teacher recommended that I get tested, and sure enough, I do have a learning disability. And I had to repeat kindergarten the following year in a different school. And it was really hard for me. I can remember just really struggling academically. I began to receive specialty instruction and accommodations. And it was hard in the very beginning because I just wanted to learn, make my parents happy, which they already were. But I wanted to just be accepted by my peers. And that was really hard too. The bullying started very young. And it was just, I can just remember thinking in my life, well, what good is going to come out of this? And I just thought, well, my life would be perfect if my disability would go away. And I can just
Mm.
remember that being really a hard thing. And what eventually ended up happening was the accommodations started to work. They figured out I could read and write really well. My dad would read to me every night before I went to bed. And I learned to love writing. And they put me in regular ed, science and social studies and English. And I also still had learning support at that when I was very young. And I could just remember that and we had for math, definitely. And my dad found a story I wrote about a dinosaur when I was in third grade. And he said, wow, this is really good. And I was just blown away because no one ever really said that I was good at anything. And I was like, wow. And that just encouraged me to write more and to read. And that became my world whenever things got really difficult for me. And I can just remember it got easier for me academically when I was in school. I started to be in all regular ed classes by the time I was in high school, except for math. And I also just had a really, an easier time academically. My grades really improved. I was making honor roll, but it was really hard for me socially. A lot of the groups became more defined that I just didn't feel like I fit in anywhere. So I started to hang out with a group that was outside of my school district. That was an arts program that was faith based. And that was amazing. I could shed that reputation of being the outcast, and I found other kids that were interested in the same things that I was interested in. And then eventually I transitioned into an adult writing group that still meets today, 20 some years later. And they got to see me grow as a writer and a person. So that was really helpful for me as a kid. And I can remember I had someone tell me, you should really write about having a learning disability. And I thought, oh no, that's too personal. So I put that on the shelf for a number of years. And then one of the challenges I faced was, well, what am I going to do after school? And I can remember I had a learning support teacher who didn't think I could handle college because of my math. I didn't think I could handle it, but I knew that it was the right choice for me. Even when they tried saying, well, why don't you go to Votech? I said, oh, that just doesn't seem like that's the right choice for me. And luckily, I got involved with some agencies that help people with disabilities after they're done with school, with testing. They paid for all my years of college, but we started the foundation for that. And when I look back on my life now, I can just see so much of my childhood is influenced into what I do today.
That is really, really awesome. Of course, first off, I want to thank you for your transparency and sharing what you did. But like you said, and this is why I love having this part of the conversation to just start off with, is because as I shared earlier about the whole connecting of the dots. I mean, you come in right out the gate, having to deal with the learning, the disability, struggling in school. So you got the academic struggles as well as the social struggles. Um,
Mm-hmm.
you of course made mention about ultimately how bullying came into play. Just really feeling, like the outcast, if you will. But then at the same time, even in the midst of this storm that you were going through at an early age, dealing with the disability and trying to work through that, there was this gift that was already, birthed within you of creativity, where you began to just,
Mhm.
allow your mind to explore new and exciting things, whether it was coming up with creative ways to, to make do with playing, as you shared the example of, coming up with the, how you created food when you only had the cooking equipment, but no food to play with. I love that. And I feel like that wasn't an accident. It was almost like you had to be stripped, if you will, of some the things that we oftentimes take for granted of being able to do in order for your true gifts to be birthed from that. And then and look what led to that, you getting into writing, and something as
Mhm.
simple as a story that you wrote, as a young child, that your dad comes across and says, "Ooh, that was really good," and giving you that encouragement, the feeling like for the first time somebody is proud of something that I've done, that they acknowledge that it was something special.
Mhm.
And now that ignites that fire in you. And here you are years later, writing and writing and writing, taking the thing that was supposed to be a negative, if you will, and you've transitioned it into a positive in life, to where now here you are as an educator. You're not just a traditional educator. You actually educate, as I'm understanding, you educate, children with disabilities, so to be able to do that, and just the whole idea of, ultimately getting into regular classes again, ultimately going to high school, making the honor roll, and then even having a conversation about college, and not allowing somebody to dictate to you, oh, you should just go the vocational route. You're like, no, I do have some concerns about whether or not I'm going to be, how I'm going to be able to, make it through a college
Mhm.
education because of your math challenges. But nevertheless, I appreciate the fact that you refused to settle, even in the midst of knowing that if I
Mhm.
do make it into college, this is going to be a big challenge for me. But it's one that you felt like it was worth pursuing. And as you said, look at you today, writer, educator, photographer, doing things that, when you look at the way things started, nobody would necessarily picture that this would be the today
Mhm.
story, if you will. But that's what it means. That's what it's all about when it comes to, dealing with adversity, and then not allowing, the storms of life, the challenges of life to dictate to us as if this is the end, like this is like everything is over, that it's done with. So I appreciate you being so resilient, and being determined to say, yeah, it was rough. I'm admitting it. I'm being open and transparent, but
Mhm.
at the same time, I just refuse to give up. You got that fight in you very early on. And so that's very admirable. And I trust that my listeners that, that are going to tune into this are going to understand and need to understand exactly why you have to keep fighting through, even in the midst of the storms, because we're going to all
Mhm.
encounter them. But it doesn't mean that it's the end for us all. So I really appreciate that beginning that you shared, such a powerful start to your story. So, Michelle, with that said, as you know, of course, you went through these challenges as a young child, and then you transition into adulthood, and there's more experience in life that you come across, and some of those experiences, of course, are going to include more storms. And
Right.
usually by the normal track of life, the storms that we encounter at times will get a little bit more intense, a little bit more
Yes.
challenging. So much so that every now and then we hit some storms that really knock us off our feet, to the point where we question, how am I going to get out of this? How am I going to overcome that? And so, with that said, if you would, tell us about a time when you faced a challenge, a moment of adversity, a storm, if you will, that you had doubts, you had fears and worries, like, how will I ever overcome this? Sure, I've been able to accomplish a lot in my
Mhm.
early years of life, but I'm keep getting hit with some things, some challenges. If you would kind of share with us a time where you found yourself in such a situation, and what was ultimately the turning point where you began to see some light at the end of the tunnel, and coming out of what appeared to be an insurmountable moment of adversity for you.
I can remember my early 20s were a big storm for me. I can remember I graduated from high school, and before I could go on to college, I had to get tested for a learning disability again to get to receive services. And I've never been a great test taker. And I can just remember going in and taking the test and not doing really well after the evaluation. And a psychiatrist told me I was not going to go beyond community college. And
Mm,
I already had my doubts, I already had some fears, so that was really difficult for me. And then I get to community college and I had some more discouragement. I had people were saying that using disability accommodations was cheating. A lot of my peers thought that. I even had a professor that thought well, we don't use calculators here, we use our brains. And that was really discouraging. And sometimes I thought, oh my goodness, this feels like it's high school all over again with some of the
Mm.
attitudes that were going that I was hearing. And I also had a professor who told me that I was going to have limited job choices because of my math problems. And I thought, wow, that was really discouraging because I really was fearful of that. And I didn't use accommodations, which was not the right choice to make because my grades dropped even more. And I just remember feeling so discouraged and thinking, that I don't know, is this really the right thing? People were saying, well, maybe it's not the right major for you, but I really thought early childhood was the right major. And I was going to have issues irregardless. And I can just remember I was in a science class and I was really struggling. And my professor told me, well, why don't we at least get you extended test time? And I was able to pass her class. I didn't do well, but I passed the class. And I was also really struggling in some other classes, but I was able to pass them because I had accommodations. And I graduated with an associate's degree in early childhood education. I moved out on my own, but I still had some struggles. I love being independent, but I wanted more for myself. I was working in some child cares. I was really struggling on what my purpose was in life because I thought, well, where is this good plan that God has for me? A lot of family members were getting married, and people were saying, oh, when are you going to get married? And I'm thinking, well, I haven't even met anybody that I wanted to share my life with. And I wanted more for myself, and be careful what you wish for because I had to move back in with my parents. And I can remember somebody from church saying, well, did you pray about it? And I'm like, I prayed about it and just wondering, okay, how did this happen? Back in with my mom and dad. But I just felt this thing where it was like, okay, this is the time to go back to school. And I researched and I found the perfect program that had the least amount of math and science possible. It had disability accommodations. And this is when things started to really turn around for me. Everything happened that they had accommodations and I used them. I advocated for myself and my grades improved dramatically. Made Dean's List for a semester and I was able to graduate with a bachelor's degree in community programming for Americans with disabilities, despite being told I couldn't do it. And that was my late 20s. So, and
Mm.
also I met my husband during that time too. So things did start to turn around, but it took the late 20s, early 30s for that to happen.
Wow. Wow. Again, another powerful portion of your testimony that you're sharing. And again, I appreciate your transparency in that. The one thing that stood out to me in what you just spoke of in this segment, I love the fact that you said that you advocated for yourself.
Mhm.
Um, and I think that that's really important because, as you shared, the reality is that when you're going through challenges and storms, unfortunately, it shouldn't be this way, but unfortunately, everybody is not always there to be of support or be of encouragement. In fact, some people can take the storm that you're already going through and make it feel even worse by, whether it's discouraging words or telling you what you can't do and what you can't be and all of that. And you went through that. It's almost like as if just as you were making some headway, then here was somebody telling you that you couldn't. I mean, not only, people and, students and peers perhaps, but even, teachers, the very people who are supposed to be encouraging you and pouring into you. You even had a teacher saying, I don't think you're going to ever be this, or you're probably never going to go as far as that. And so for you to withstand that, to endure that, but then still have it within you, to again advocate for yourself and say, you know what, I just refuse to accept all of the negativity, all of the lack of encouragement, the lack of support. I refuse to accept all of that. I know that there's something that I am purposed to become, that there's something that I'm purposed to do. And of course, obviously, the most important thing that you blended into your conversation here was just talking about praying on it. understanding God's role, because when you find yourself facing what appears to be those impossible battles, that it doesn't like there's a way through, there's a way out. We know that for those of us who understand the power of God and what it means to be in relationship with him, we understand that he's the ultimate problem solver. And even if in the world it doesn't look like there's no way, he can provide a way. And I think he opened that. I truly believe that he opened that door up for you, because you were willing to advocate, because you were willing to have faith and believe that there was more to your life, that there was more to what you were supposed to be. He led you to the answer to your prayers, if you will, helping you to find that program that checked all the boxes of what you needed it to have happen so that you could get the education that you were seeking. And of course, to address the social aspect of it, like you said, hey, I got a husband out of this along the way as well. So, I mean, it was definitely a win-win situation. And it was just another example of how God can use those storms and those challenging circumstances in life to transition you into being a better version of yourself,
Mhm.
so that you can ultimately identify and walk in the purpose that you were created to be in. So I just love, again, this resilience, this positive attitude in the midst of the storm. And for my listeners, that's exactly the way that you have to approach these storms. Don't look at them as negative events. Look at them as opportunities to grow, to develop, to become better versions of yourself. It's not going to always be easy. It's not going to always be comfortable or convenient, but if you just stand firm and you identify with the importance of having God in the middle of it all, following His lead, the possibilities become endless as to what you can accomplish and what you can achieve. So that's a beautiful story that you shared, and I appreciate you doing that. Um, so, Michelle, I'm curious to know. I mean, obviously, you've shared some very challenging things that you've had to deal with, but we all know that, sometimes the storms are very, high intense and challenging, and sometimes they're just regular day to day type things that we all have to deal with, in life. But with that said, I'm curious to find out from you, when you do find yourself facing adverse moments, moments of challenge or things of that nature, what is it that you like to do that kind of helps you to process through moments of adversity? Like, what's your routine, your regiment that just kind of works for you, where you can kind of keep a steady mind, keep your focus, but at the same time be able to work through whatever the challenge is, big, small, or otherwise?
I think one of the biggest things has always been writing, because when I write, I have a voice and that helps me to be able to express myself. I also love to take pictures of flowers. I'm not able to drive, so if I'm on a walk, I'll be able to notice details that other people will miss. So taking a picture of a flower is really helpful. I love to work out. Sometimes that really helps me to have a clear mind. Before that, just being handling stress. So that's another thing too. But just sometimes it's focusing on what I can do. If I
Mm.
focus on being able to do math or driving or something else that's really hard for me, I'm going to be sad and I'm not going to be very happy or positive, and I'll be probably pretty frustrated. But if I focus on what I can do, if like reading or writing, and that just helps put me in a perspective, and I'm in a better mood, and that's something I feel more empowered with doing.
Love that. I love that. Especially, because I think it is important, as you said, we oftentimes, when we're going through, we
Hmm.
focus in on, like I said, the negative of it all, what it prevents us from doing, what it blocks us from doing. And a lot of times, you go through the struggle of coming to a solution in whatever it is that you're facing, because you don't have a clear mind, you don't have a clear focus. And so I love that you have a multitude of different things that you like to do that kind of helps you to kind of get centered, whether it's, like you said, whether it's working out,
Hmm.
whether it's, writing, as you said, it kind of gives you that voice to just kind of get it out, whatever that is that you're dealing with. And then I think that the thing that's most special about what you said that you like to do is the idea of taking pictures of flowers.
Yeah,
Um, it's you recognize for you that there's something that's beautiful, there's something that's calming about flowers, and let me take some pictures of it. Let me have an appreciation of the beauty of life, the
right.
beauty of nature. Let me explore that, and how that, just doing that, something as simple as taking pictures, how that just sort of just, again, brings a sort of a level of calm to you. And interesting enough, of course, and if anybody has a chance to read your bio or your website, you've actually had your photography be published in magazines and things of that nature. So it's like it you the very thing that helps calm you, you've had an opportunity to allow that to be a blessing to other people to see your work. Not just that you're a good photographer, but I guarantee you there's somebody that looks at your pictures of your flowers and they get
Mm-hmm.
that same sense of calm that you get. You know, so who knew that, again, that God would gift you with a skill set of photography to take pictures of things that not only helps to bring calm and peace and joy for you, but that it
Mm-hmm.
gives you an opportunity to do the same for other people, people that you'll never meet per se, people that you'll never know their names or their faces, but you get to bless people daily that get a hold of those pictures and to get to admire them and to enjoy them through you, through your experiences, through your time of just trying to get some calm, just trying to catch my breath, just trying to get locked in and focused on
Mm-hmm.
whatever it is that's going on. So I think that that's really a beautiful thing. And it's just, again, another example of how God can use even challenging times to manifest that through you to not
Mm-hmm.
only be a blessing to you, but to be a blessing to other people. So that's beautiful stuff. I really love that. This is an awesome story that you're sharing here. Very very
Oh.
unique in its own way, but it's simple, but it's magnificent in so many ways. So that and again, and that's just how God works. And it's clear that He's doing all of that through you, and has done that through your whole journey. So really appreciate you sharing all of this. So Michelle, I'm curious if you had the opportunity to sit across, I should say, from the younger Michelle. When you think about all the experiences, the challenges that you've had to encounter, the moments of
Mm-hmm.
adversity, and all the likes, all the things that you've had to
Mm-hmm.
go through and persevere through, if you could speak to her and pour into her some words of encouragement, some words of wisdom, some things that you wish the younger Michelle, if she would have known some of the stuff that you know now, it might have made things a little bit more smooth, a little bit more
Mm-hmm.
easier to process and to cope with. Or just the fact that there might be somebody listening right now who is currently right now feeling like you used to feel, you know, isolated, not feeling like you didn't know what your purpose was, you know, feeling like you were just out here by yourself, you know, misunderstood, perhaps even ridiculed and not encouraged, you know, always kind of getting a lot of negative energy from other people. What would be your words of advice, your words of encouragement that you would have for the younger you or for those that might be listening that are currently going through those struggles right now?
The first thing I would love to tell my younger self or somebody that's going through something similar is that things do get better. Because I can just remember being really discouraged whenever I was young and thinking this is never going to be better. Life is always going to be a struggle. And my parents could assure me of that, but I just never really believed it in myself. And I've gone to the other side to say that things do get better and it does improve. I would also tell my younger self that you're going to get married, so don't get so hung up on people who will say, "Oh, you're never going to find anybody." The right person is out there. You will have friends in your life, so if you're in a situation and you don't feel like anyone likes you or cares about you, you're going to find your people to hang out with. For the thing about employment, you're going to find a job. It's not always going to be easy, but you're going to find a job where you're not only going to be able to make yourself happy, but you're also going to really be an inspiration to other people and help them. And God will use that. And you will become a published writer. That's another thing that I would just wish I could have told my younger self, and that you're going to take pictures and just life is going to be a lot better, and then to just give it all to God, and He'll give you something even better.
That is awesome. And everything that you said is the absolute truth. It's like, you
Mm-hmm.
know, if you would have given a snippet of how your life started, a lot of people on the
Mm-hmm.
outside looking in would have made some of the same judgments, the same calls, thinking, "Yep, she's not going to go anywhere. Nothing's going to happen
Mm-hmm.
with this. It's pretty much, you know, Walmart greeter and you know, basic
Yep.
life, no education, no purpose, no value, by yourself, just you and the cats,
Mm-hmm.
and you know, and doing nothing." but as we see, I should say, God has transformed your life in such a miraculous and magnificent way. Again, allowing you to truly live in your purpose, using what was supposed to be a negative, at least per worldly perspectives, and you've turned that thing around to such a positive experience, not only for yourself but for so many that you're touching day to day in your field of education, or whether it's through your publications and things of that nature, that you're able to just share the joy of life and an appreciation for life and what it has to offer, and being that living example of what it looks like to face adversity head on, and just make the most of it and not allow it to dictate any kind of specific limitations on you. I love the fact that you just refuse to be limited. And again, going back to that whole advocating for yourself, believing in yourself, but most importantly, believing that God will make a way, even when it doesn't appear that there's going to be any way for you to accomplish the many things that you have and the many things that are still to come. Because I believe that your story is not over, that there's still more that's going to come from your life, more blessings, not only for you personally, but for many others of lives that you're going to touch. So this has just been a wonderful and awesome story to hear. And I'm so thankful that you were able to take the time out to be with us this evening and share your journey. I know I have been blessed in hearing it, and I know our listeners are going to be blessed as well. This has really been a beautiful, touching story, and I'm so glad that we connected and had the opportunity to have this conversation. But as is customary here at the Blessings in the Streets podcast, before I let you go, we are going to take an opportunity to love on you, to celebrate you, to acknowledge you. So if you would share with us what you got going on personally or professionally, that's happening now or coming up down the road that we need to know about. What's the breaking news that we need to know about Michelle, and how can we not only celebrate that, but how can, if anybody is interested in connecting with you or being a part of some of the things that you're doing, please share that with us. What can we look forward to with you, Michelle? What's going on?
Well, next week I am speaking at my first in-person event set for a few years. I'm going to be talking about how to have a successful transition plan, and I'm very excited about that and get to share my story and just to give some advice to some other people on how to make that work with transitions and accommodations. So I'm really excited about that. And I'm busy with my blog and sharing my story. And if anybody wants to find me on my blog, you can find me at www.mrsmichellesmission.com.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, Michelle, it has been an absolute pleasure getting a chance to personally talk to you for the first time, hearing your story, and just again, just enjoying the journey, the ride that you've been on. And I will definitely, continue to keep you lifted. God's anointing is all over you. He's doing a great work in you. And again, I'm excited to hear more about what is in store for you, not only now, but in the days and the weeks and the months and the years to come, because I don't believe your story is over just yet. And there's so much more that you're going to be doing, walking in your purpose, living your life. And again, being that living example again about, as it pertains to dealing with adversity head on and not allowing it to defeat you. And for my listeners, if you've enjoyed our conversation this evening, you've enjoyed the transparency, the vulnerability that has been on display tonight, showing you what it means to face that adversity head on. Please subscribe, please share, please like, please comment, because at the Blessings in the Streets podcast, this is what it's all about. We want to encourage, we want to uplift, we want to pour into you. We want you to know that, hey, we all go through our stuff. It may not all be, we may not all have the same moments of adversity, the same challenges that we're up against, but everybody goes through them. And in our human condition, it's okay for you to feel, a certain way about them, whether it's sadness, whether it's anger, whether it's frustration, or whatever that is. Be human, have those human emotions. Just don't stay stuck there. Know that there is that the possibilities are endless. But most importantly, knowing that as long as you lean on God and you trust in Him to guide you through these moments of adversity, these storms in life, He will not steer you wrong. He loves you unconditionally. He wants nothing but the best for you. He will give you that insight, that vision, even when it feels like nobody else cares, nobody else is supporting, nobody else is being of encouragement. He will be all of that and then some for you. And I promise you, you will not go wrong. You will not go astray. And again, the blessings will just be just you'll lose count as to how he can work in your life and how he can use you to be a blessing to so many others and walking in your purpose and utilizing the gifts that he has placed inside of you. And if you don't currently have a relationship with God, I'm here to tell you that today is a mighty fine day to make that decision. And I guarantee you it'll be the best decision that you ever make in life. God never expected us to carry on the burdens and the challenges of life on our own. We don't have the ability to do it by ourselves, and we were not equipped to do it by ourselves. We're not hopeless. We're not helpless, but he wants that relationship. He wants to be there for you. He wants to be that support for you. Allow him that opportunity to do so. And again, you won't go wrong. It'll be the best decision ever. So with that said, remember here at the Blessings in the Streets podcast, this is the place where your story is your glory, where your relationships are relevant, and your journey is your joy. I am your host, Joseph B. Roberts. Thank you so much for tuning in. And until next time, you keep fighting that good fight. Advocate for yourself. As Michelle said, you advocate for yourself. Don't let other people speak negativity into you. Don't let other people speak, limitations on you. Know that you are deserving and worthy of so much more, and allow God to open up the windows and show you just how much more you are of value to him and what he has in store for you, what lies ahead for you. Make yourself open and to receive all that he has for you. And again, just watch him bless you and love on you as no one else can. And so until next time, you take care of yourselves. I look forward to seeing you again on our next broadcast. Have a great rest of your evening.